This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
Always follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the sports betting network. Mitch Moss along with Paulie Howard. We're live on a Football Friday. Downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino is the spot. Loaded to the gills for the next 3 hours. Plenty on the Week 11 slate in the National Football League. Some absolutely monstrous games this weekend, specifically in the NFC. We'll hit those multiple times. A bunch of player props, guys who have been red hot, either over, under, based on matchups. What do we like this week? We'll have a little on college football today as well. Big games in that sport. NBA Cup is tonight. At least a little bit to like, in my opinion, on the betting card tonight, Paulie, in that league. And we'll begin with what happened last night after the Patriots moved to 9-2, as always, get the best number. They open up 10.5. That landing spot, oh boy, to land on 13.
Yes.
And if you bet the Patriots late, and maybe even laid 13.5 at some books, that doesn't feel very good.
No, everyone should have won.
Everybody should have won last night. Spot on.
Yeah.
And now look at the numbers today. I bring this up every year now in the NFL because there's an angle, and it's happened in the past, but there's an angle for like multiple teams to win several awards. The Patriots being one of them, because Vrabel's plus 115 coach of the year. May's around plus 230, plus 240 after last night. And now here you go, Travion Henderson, as low as 8-1, as high as 18-1 to steal the rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Is this going to happen?
God.
3 more last night.
Why didn't he get the ball? I was on his props for 2 weeks, 3 weeks straight, and they weren't giving him the ball. But he could possibly steal this, I know. Although I like your Ibuka ticket. But Vrabel, coach of the year. But I don't think, and that's why Sunday's so important. I still think Stafford's going to win the MVP.
Well, so do I.
Because you look at the last 6 games, he has 20 touchdowns and no interceptions. And 1,688 yards. So if he beats Seattle, he also has that showcase game coming up. He's on a Sunday night against Tampa. He plays a Thursday night game at Seattle. Even if they go 2-1 there.
Sure, I agree.
And the way he's lighting it up, I also want to get inside the voters' head, which I think they could see it maybe as a Lifetime Achievement Award.
For Stafford?
I think all
so
those
too.
bad years
Right.
with the Lions, and we're going to give it to you, and you've been so good. And they did this with Wembanyama. May is going to win plenty. He'll have his opportunities. He's young. But yeah, they just went over their win total already with the win. They were favored in 11 games before the season. I didn't think they'd be this good, but they are awesome, what they've done. And 1 seed definitely in play, and certainly 14 wins.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things they could clean up. Again, they have to do a better job in the red zone. I think they're too pass-happy sometimes. They do have a weapon in Henderson. I don't know what it's going to take for them to realize that. He should get more carries. In any event, this kid's the real deal at quarterback. I know the MVP chants were all night, but there's a lot going on with this organization now, and minus $3 to win the division, which that's the more incredible takeaway, because the Bills were minus 2,000 at one point.
That's exactly right. And now it's completely flipped. Mm-hmm. And the Patriots, if they stay healthy here with their schedule, I mean, we are talking 13, 14 wins.
We are.
I mean, they could very easily run this season and have maybe 1 more loss, maybe 2. I mean, if it completely falls apart, then all bets are off. But I doubt that's going to happen based on their upcoming schedule. And look, I'm trying to be as realistic as possible. As someone holding Drake May 95-1 to win the MVP, I completely disagree with the odds right now. I mean, it should be Matthew Stafford around even money, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. He clearly has the edge to win this award as of today. And I thought that May and, the team last night, they left a lot of yards on the field. And, oh, by the way, he could have had a couple of INTs last night.
The defense didn't look good either.
I agree with that.
I mean, they were gashing him on the ground, and it's like...
by the way...
I can't... Go ahead.
I was going to say, the scripted plays, isn't that funny? Like, once a team gets off the scripted plays, how it doesn't look anything like the first drive?
Yeah. Well, the guy who let him down was Mitchell. Catch the ball.
Oh, my God,
He should have had 80 yards and a touchdown. At least he dropped 3 passes. I mean, how did we lose that prop?
I
he had
don't
a
know.
catch early. He couldn't get one more catch. But that's stunning in today's NFL that, as Herb Street said, their best play is when Fields just drops back and then takes off and runs.
That's true.
And he's right. And the other thing is, how are you, as we go into week 12, you don't have an interception and you have 1 takeaway.
I really want them to play the entire regular season without 1 INT.
That's in play.
Because that will never be topped, ever.
Like Michael said, well, the takeaway was in London. You can't even count it. In the U.S., they don't have a takeaway.
Yeah, he said that
they
haven't had a
hilarious.
domestic takeaway yet.
Yeah, that was well said. So it's just the defense is just a horror show. But it was encouraging, at least how they moved the ball. But that would be a little problem for New England, that they had success on the ground and the quarterback stuff related with Fields, how he was gashing.
Well, but also Fields stayed under his very low passing yards prop, which is just astonishing here.
Again, I know. Now, how bad are the Bengals? This is all-time bad, the Bengals defense. He can't throw for 150 yards against anybody else. They scored 39 points on the road.
Yeah, look at the Bears, what they did, too.
Against the Bengals. Yeah.
So I guess another takeaway would be when you're looking at season-long win totals, two teams I'll bring up here from last year and now the Patriots, you got to put a lot of stock when a team on paper, it's screaming at you, they have the worst schedule in football, like they did. The Niners were right there with them. But the Chargers were that team last year, too, based on their opponents. They had difficult, games based on rest disadvantages last year, but the Chargers flew over their win total, and they played a cupcake schedule. We're seeing the same thing this year with the Patriots, and back-to-back years now where it's actually playing out. And, oh, by the way, you're seeing a big bump at coach as well. Chargers with Harbaugh, Vrabel here with the Patriots, and they actually have an idea of what they're doing. So built a great culture, and now the aforementioned Bills, they're laying 5.5 in this game on Sunday against the Buccaneers. I think we're going to get maybe some potential weather here. Rain, maybe some snow, showers throughout. Winds of 15 to 25 miles an hour are expected as well. We'll see if the precipitation is going to hold. Not sure. That could obviously change by tonight. But I think the wind is probably going to be there. And typically in a game like this, where I'm not so high on the Bills anymore, I still like the Buccaneers despite losing to the Patriots last week. I would like to say, well, which team's coming off the biggest stink bomb here? Because I'd like to have them bounce back in a positive way. Both teams are coming off of, specifically Buffalo here, really bad performances here.
Turnovers, same thing.
Oh,
the outlier was the Kansas City game. They're just not a good team.
And the Ravens come back.
Yeah, that's it.
They were buried in that game.
Right. They're down 15 late. That's the miracle. The wins are the Jets, Dolphins, Saints, Panthers. Dalton had a broken thumb, and they were great against the Chiefs. I mean, look at these performances. 14 points against Atlanta. Lost at home to the Patriots. Lose by 17 to Miami. But the problem is you still don't have Godwin and Irving back. They're out. You don't have Dalton Kincaid. He's out. And I don't know what they're going to be able to get on the ground. Hard to run against Tampa. We'll see if Cook and company has success. But if they're not doing that design stuff for Allen, and he's not, as I said all season, if he doesn't go off, this is a below-average team with a lousy roster. And I'm sticking to it. And it's all about Allen. As he goes, they go.
All right.
But it's a tough game because the last 2 years, Tampa's 8-1 ATS off a loss, and Mayfield's been great in this spot as well.
Yeah, road dog since 2020. Baker Mayfield's 19-10 ATS, very strong there. Also, as a single-digit road dog, 27-10 over the total. They played in some shootouts. I think Sean Tucker is the guy that you want to have your eyes on because the Bills can be had on the ground. And Tucker, I think he is, with Bucky Irving out, we saw it last week. He had 9 carries. By the way, first guy to go over 50 yards against the Patriots defense this year. He had 53. And I saw his prop as low as 37.5 in this game. He's clearly a better running back. Rashad White, very good in the air as a target for Mayfield to throw to, but as a running back, Sean Tucker is very good. And I think he's, clearly better than Rashad White. And if the Bills do lose this game, where does that number go on the Patriots to win the division? Then it's almost over with because they already have the head-to-head tiebreaker, and they'll get them in at Foxborough in the revenge game.
They will.
And plus, you have the Bills then looming, short rest Thursday night against this Texans defense playing out of their minds.
Yep.
So it's a litmus test here, big time for Buffalo, and I would agree the Chiefs game, they were up for that game big time, fell on their faces last week against a below-average Miami team. And so the intriguing part here is, you're right. Does Josh Allen have to beat this team by himself? Now, last week, Travion Henderson, he went off against the Buccaneers. Not many running backs have done that this year. This comes down to whether or not James Cook is going to be able to run the football. And they can get him going against the Buccaneers. Now, his prop is low to mid-80s. And the Opta AI projections, vsin.com/NFL props, they have him going under by about 11 yards in this game.
I got to get me some Tez Johnson.
Agreed.
MVP, is that for me? I mean, look at this now. 2 touchdowns last week. He's 3-1 tonight, to this week, anytime touchdown. He's only 40. It's plus money at some spots to have 40 yards. 59, 45, 58, 43, 42. and the rapport that he has with Mayfield with these injuries. So a little bit of Tez, your guy Ibuka, looking at props there, but Tez continues to get it done, and maybe go. I think he can get in the end zone as well here.
It's also, narrative, from that standpoint. If the Buccaneers win this game, suddenly it's going to be like, oh, threat in the NFC.
Oh, sure.
And if the Bills lose this game, I mean, plenty of people are going to write them off.
Well, if the Rams win these next two, watch out. If they can
Seahawks
go,
and the Buccaneers.
The Rams coming up too, yeah. If they can also beat the Rams next week, you're right. What they did to Seattle, they're definitely going to hear that talk.
I just think 5.5's a lot of points here, is it not?
Again, I absolutely agree with Damian Woody. It's over. The window's closed. They missed their chance. They missed their opportunity. They had all those chances to beat Kansas City when it counted, and they couldn't do it. And now you luck up and like, whoop, okay, well, that is true. We did blow it.
Oh.
And now what are we going to do? We're going to have to start on the road. Well, good luck with that.
I would say this. The one saving grace for Buffalo this year specifically is that in totality, the AFC is not very good. Right? I mean, the Chiefs, clearly a good football team.
Yeah, but the path, though, that's what's going to get me. Are you going to have to go to Baltimore? Are you going to have to go Baltimore, Kansas City, or Denver, something? Something like that?
I would not love that, obviously. But if they can avoid playing all three of those teams, then who knows?
Yeah.
And then maybe it comes down to, hey, they're taking care of the ball again, and they're not turning it over, and hey, it's 2024 all over again, where the takeover margin is so big on their side. Week 11 loaded marquee games. We'll dive into them coming up next. This has been a lopsided series over the last handful of years to the tune of 11-2 in favor of one team. We'll give you the details on that next here on VSiN.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
This hour is sponsored by Better Picks, the daily fantasy sports app where your sports knowledge turns into real cash fast. Download Better or visit better.app now. Sign up today, get free money and no deposit necessary. BETR, better.app. Go now.
Let's begin the hour talking about an absolutely massive game in the NFC coming up on Sunday afternoon, and it's the Rams hosting the Seahawks. Los Angeles, a 3-point favorite. A couple of books have 3.5 in this spot here. Total is 48.5 as we head out to the Progressive guest line. Rob Stanton joins the program now, does a great job covering the Seahawks. The website it's SeahawksDraftBlog.com. On X at Rob Stanton, like I mentioned. Rob, good afternoon. Thanks for the time today. How are you?
Really good, thanks, guys. Yeah, looking forward to this huge game on Sunday. Can't wait.
Yeah, same here. So before we get into that game, as the NFL plays more and more games over in London, how much more popular is this sport today, say, compared to, 10 or 15 years ago?
Wow. Well, it's huge compared to where it was. So I used to live in Vancouver in Canada, and I moved back to the UK in 2006. And there was probably like a really small, hardcore following of NFL fans over in the UK. Now, every time I leave the house, I will come across somebody who's wearing a hoodie or a cap or something or a hat to do with one of the NFL franchises. And the London games have just transformed the interest of the sport over here. I would say that it's not close to sort of the soccer and stuff like that because that's the national sport, but it's not too far behind to the point that the major sports broadcasters now, I work for the BBC. On a Sunday, you will find in prominent place on their main page online, and we cover it on the radio as well, the NFL is front and center. So it's just exploded in the last 15 years.
All right. Well, both these teams, that's great to hear. Both these teams are elite at almost every single stat that you can find. Maybe there's a weakness here or there. I will point out the Rams special teams and probably the Seahawks running attack overall. And it's a high total here in our racket of 49 here in this game, Rob. Do you see this game being a lower scoring game, or is it going to turn into a shootout, you think, on Sunday?
I think the one game that I'm focusing on to try and project what will happen this weekend is the one game when the two teams played each other when the Rams actually played their starters last season. So they played in sort of the middle of the season, and then they played in the final game when the Rams were already in the playoffs. They'd already won the NFC West, so they rested everybody. And in that first game, it was close. It was low scoring. It went to overtime. The Rams won it in overtime in the end, but it was a very tight back and forth game. The Seahawks had their opportunities, and perhaps surprisingly, and given that Matt Stafford's having a great season and looks fantastic, the Seahawks defense did a very good job keeping him quiet. And I suspect the Rams defensive line will do the same to Seattle. So I'm not sure that it's going to be a huge score of this one, but I think it's going to be really close and probably decided by maybe a field goal in the end.
Do you have an answer or McDonald of why they are so good on the road in this ridiculous 11-1 run?
No, not really, because at home they've been really poor.
Yes.
You know, for the last sort of 4 to 5 years, the Seahawks have not been a good home team. And then for whatever reason, and it was with Pete Carroll in the back end of his tenure as well, they would go on the road and they would win. I just wonder a little bit whether the team is good enough to win, you know, any game, any time. But maybe opponents saw going to Lumen Field as a bit of a challenge, you know, because historically it's been a really difficult place to go. It's a long trip for a lot of teams. And maybe they just up the game a little bit for when they play in Seattle. And maybe what we're seeing on the road is just the Seahawks are a talented team, but they're showing that, especially this year. And that when they do not have the pressure of the other team upping their game at Lumen Field, they're able to express themselves a little bit more. I think that's the only thing it can be.
A lot of people are still waiting for like the shoe to drop, right? And a bomb to go off with Sam Darnold in a really bad way. And him to revert back to the form that he was before he was with the Vikings a season ago. That came with Minnesota last year, by the way, last regular season game and then the playoff game. But other than that, he's been really good for 2 full years now. Like, is this going to be the guy we're going to get moving forward? Or are you kind of in that camp of saying, you know what, I still think that it's probably going to be a bad game coming at some point?
Look, he's still throwing the odd pass that you wish he wouldn't. And I think that means that there's going to be the potential for a game where he just has a really poor performance and maybe turns the ball over a little bit too much. And people go, yep, that's the same old Sam Darnold. But what I would say is, look, the guy had 35 touchdowns last year. He won 14 games. He's coming to Seattle. They've currently got the most efficient and the most explosive offense in the NFL statistically. You know, they're ranked amongst the highest for their passing game. And a lot of that is because of the way that Sam Darnold's playing. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be that there's going to be a collapse from Sam Darnold at any point. And I think you're right. There's 2 games last season. He played very poorly against the Detroit Lions. Against the Rams in the playoffs, we have to remember, he was sacked 9 times. He was pressured 27 times on dropbacks in that game alone. And if you actually look at Matt Stafford and Lamar Jackson, they had as many pressures on dropbacks in their 2 playoff games that Sam Darnold had in 1. And the Vikings clearly thought their offensive line was so bad in that game that they went out and signed Ryan Kelly at big money, signed Will Fries at big money, and then they spent a first-round pick on Donovan Jackson. So they felt the offensive line was a big problem there. In Seattle, he's playing behind a good offensive line, which is a big surprise to many Seahawks fans, I can tell you that. But with that extra protection, with Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think for the most part, what we're seeing with Sam Darnold is what we're going to get for the rest of the year. How
are they able to get him open and he delivers every single game and what Kubiak's done? And would you advise a 7-1 bet on him to win to break the record?
Yes.
Wow.
If he stays healthy, I would. Because there's an inevitability about Jackson Smith-Njigba. You know, when you see a player, you know, it doesn't matter what you're going to do, he's going to get his yardage. He's going to get a touchdown. I think the best example of this was against Arizona earlier in the season. And the Arizona Cardinals blanketed their coverage towards Jackson Smith-Njigba. And going into the 4th quarter, he'd done very little in that game. And then when the game was on the line, when the Seahawks needed a drive after they'd nearly threw that one away, who was the guy they were throwing to downfield? It was Jackson Smith-Njigba. And now every single week, doesn't matter what teams do, he's getting 90 yards, 100 yards, 120 yards, maybe getting a touchdown. I think he is going to break that record provided that he stays healthy.
Yeah, I'm kind of in your camp. And we talked to a reporter who covers the team, lives in Seattle last week. And for what it's worth, he's like, oh, they're absolutely talking about it. Like, this is the thing in the locker room.
Yeah, I genuinely think there's just an inevitability about him right now. He has become... You know, you think about if you gave the Justin Jefferson, you know, an elite quarterback, you just know that he'd get his yardage. It's the same with many receivers over the years. You know, when Jared Goff is at his best, you know that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to get you 80, 90, 100 yards. Jackson Smith-Njigba's in there now. He's getting open at an unbelievable rate, and he doesn't do it with just blazing speed. He doesn't do it with size and strength. He's just such a naturally gifted receiver, and he's intelligent, he's savvy, he's very reliable, consistent, doesn't drop passes, makes spectacular grabs. He can get downfield. He can run after the catch. He's pretty much the complete player this year.
Rob, we introed you as someone who runs the site SeahawksDraftBlog.com, and you've come on this show and this network before the draft in previous years. And when you're watching them play like last week, defensively now, I'm asking it, and Mike McDonald obviously is a defensive coach, they got dudes popping at every single level, right? Now, they've had a couple of good signings in free agency, but as someone who covers this team really closely with the draft, it feels to me like they've hit a home run with almost all their picks in recent years, yeah?
Yeah, they have. They've got great depth. You know, you look at some of these teams, and it's quite easy to look at the Packers and go, well, Micah Parsons, like, difference maker, fantastic. But maybe they've got a few holes in that secondary. Like, you could look at maybe other teams like the Detroit Lions. You know, they've got a really good edge rusher, but are there maybe some injuries that are hampering them in the secondary? You know, look at the Eagles' defense. Jalen Carter's really impactful. Defensive line can be impactful, but, you know, have they got some flaws elsewhere? I think that's the thing with the Seahawks. They're pretty much don't have any major glaring weaknesses now that certain players have come back. They've got some others to come back as well, like Julian Love, the safety. This is going to be a matchup, I think. This is the thing that interests me the most about this game. It's going to be Mike McDonald in this defense against Sean McVay and Matt Stafford. Because last season, when the two teams had their starters, like I mentioned, that first meeting, the Rams only ran for 68 yards in the game, 2.8 yards a carry. Matt Stafford only had 215 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I think a lot of the focus is going to be, wow, Sam Darnold's playing the Rams again. How's he going to get on? I'm interested to see if Stafford and McVay can play a little better than they did in that first meeting last season. Now, the evidence that we're seeing so far this year is that, yes, they are, because Matt Stafford's the MVP leader, maybe alongside Jonathan Taylor. But it's going to be interesting to see how does McVay and Stafford deal with this McDonald defense, because it's playing ever so well this year.
Yeah, that's a great angle. So other than JSN probably getting his yards again this week, is there a player on the Seahawks that we should all be on the lookout for in this game?
Well, I always think you need to keep an eye on Leonard Williams. Like, Leonard Williams is disruptive. There's always a chance that he's going to get a sack. He is, for me, playing as well as any interior defensive lineman in the NFL this season. I don't know why he's not getting more attention as a potential defensive player of the year. Maybe it's just because the numbers aren't quite as some others are. But if you watch the Seahawks every week like I do, you know, it's a pleasure to watch him play. Like, he is dominant every single week. And there aren't many teams that have a player like this who are just getting it done week after week. And when you put Byron Murphy alongside him as well, you know, it's a great combo. So any opportunity I'm going to get to highlight Leonard Williams, I'm going to do it, because I think he's being slept on in terms of his impact this season.
Oh, very good.
Only 90 seconds. Can you put into perspective for our audience what it is like to cover Sheffield Wednesday?
Oh, my word. In 90 seconds. I'd need 90 days. I mean, like, Sheffield, it's been ridiculous covering Sheffield Wednesday this season. The good news is, and it's ridiculous that they've nearly gone under. The club has nearly gone out of business, and the fans are celebrating because they will have a new owner. Now, it's potentially going to be American owners down the line. We'll wait and see what happens there. We'll know by early December, you know, who is going to buy this football club. But that has been chaotic. Sleepless nights. I've never worked as hard as I have over the last sort of 3 or 4 months covering a story, but thankfully it looks as if it is coming to an end. And maybe it's going to take a long road back, but maybe one day they can finally get back to the Premier League. It's been 25 years.
Oh, man, that was awesome stuff. You can follow Rob on X. He's at Rob Stanton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. He's also the host, NFL host on BBC, and the BBC Game of the Week on Sunday is the Rams and the Seahawks. Rob, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate that.
Anytime, guys. My pleasure.
There you go. And he was on the Progressive Guest Line. Sounds to me like he also would look at the 3.5, expecting a close game between these two teams. Up next, we'll dive into teams and players who should be able to exploit really bad defenses this week. A player who hasn't recorded a single rushing stat in 3 straight games has a plus matchup on Sunday. So what gives?
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
What a big weekend in the SEC. Games to be played tomorrow pretty much across the board. We'll talk about that. And also the next coach of LSU is Jimmy Ott, joins the program now, ESPN Baton Rouge, and he is on the Progressive Guest Line. Jimmy, good afternoon. Good to talk to you, pal. How are you?
Absolutely. Great to hear from you guys. Yes, indeed. How are you doing?
Doing well. You're the perfect guy to ask this, because an offshore book opened up Nick Saban at around 70 or 75 to 1 to become the next head coach at LSU. Immediately, it dropped to 2 to 1. Is there anything to that, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, you have to start with Nick. And Nick still has some close friends in Baton Rouge, and you have to make that call. And they have made that call. They have had conversations with him, but he is out. Okay, so they have, just like when Wayne Huizenga was in town. Okay, you're going to Miami. Who do you like? And actually, of all people, he said, I don't know about everybody, but man, Arkansas usually plays us really, really tough. I respect the job that Houston Nutt's done at Fayetteville. For whatever, little historical reference there. But Saban is out as of now, but they are leaning him for direction. And he is recommended of one of his former assistants. He's got a lot of them out there, and it's the hottest name right now. And it's there's a reason that Lane Kiffin has not signed his contract. That was on his table 2 days after James Franklin was launched. Signetti, they extended him in Bloomington. He has not signed it in Oxford. I'm not sure if he's going to go to Baton Rouge or Florida. Of course, his ex-wife, Layla, is a Florida alum. John Reeves, a quarterback for Florida and the Tampa Bay Bandits. That's her dad. And, she was born in the state of Florida, and he likes Florida, so he could go there. And then I'm hearing that Ole Miss, if he makes it a playoff, which they're going to make it, they're not going to allow him to coach a team if he takes another job. So if you're asking me where he's going to be between Oxford, Florida, or Baton Rouge, I think it's not going to be Oxford, but I'm not sure where it might be. But I do not think he's going to stay in Oxford. I could be wrong. One thing, I'll bet on this. He's going to be the highest paid coach in about a month in college football. With Jimmy Sexton, he is going to cash in. And as usual, it's just more exaggerated this year with the high profile openings. But Jimmy Sexton's in the catbird seat right now.
Yeah. Well, how about how this is played out, though, where the governor gets involved and he says that this AD will not make the hire? These bad contracts follow him around, and then he's let go as well. So how about how this has been handled?
It's damaged the hire. It's damaged, the hiring process. And if it doesn't eliminate some guys, it is going to drive the price up a little bit more. There's no doubt. But still, here's the list. It's 2. Three straight coaches national championships. It's Miami and it's LSU. That's the list. And that's where Brian Kelly took the job. He said, man, Les Miles and Ed Orgeron can win national championships. I can too. But he was not involved and didn't embrace the recruiting aspect of the job. He thought the players called him to show up. I mean, these were some of the weaker rosters that we've seen. This year's roster was good, minus the offensive line. It just has brought the whole thing down. But I was shocked when they made the move on early. I thought Brian Kelly was still going to be the coach, for 2026, and I was wrong.
What about this Saturday? It's an early morning game, 12:45 a.m. Eastern Time, SEC Network. They're at home against Arkansas. Hogs are 2-7. LSU laying about 4.5. Total is 57.5. Do you have a play on this game, Jimmy?
Somebody's going to win when LSU has the ball. They have been so bad on offense, but Arkansas of the 16-team conference is by far the worst defense in the conference, and it's not close to second worst. So somebody's got to win there. But I know this, Frank Wilson, who I've known since middle school. I mean, he's going to have them playing hard, but the offensive line and the protection issues are still the same. Taylor Green is outstanding. Bobby Petrino, first ballot Hall of Fame scumbag, but also a really great play designer. And I mean, he's put Taylor Green in some favorable positions. So I'm not betting it with your money. I mean, no pizza money, no nothing. I'm not betting that game. Yeah. So I'm sorry. I'll abstain from that one.
You think Texas is good? What do you think of Georgia? 6.5 at home.
But you tell me. I mean, are they? This is a team that should have lost to Mississippi State. Yep. It's a team that got out first down 26-8 in Lexington, and then they build a 34-6 lead against Vanderbilt. But then Vanderbilt's got their hands on the ball with less than a minute to go on an onside kick. So I'm not sure about Texas. I do think that Georgia is a fade team for me. They're just not what they've been the last few years. This is the second worst yards per play defense since Kirby's been there. The worst was his first year. They don't have those killers like they're playing for the Eagles right now. Auburn, they were lucky. Ole Miss, 5 straight possessions, touchdowns, long sustained drives. That's not Kirby Smart. That's not Georgia. That's not Vince Dooley. That's never. Georgia's one of my biggest fade teams right now. But Texas on the road has not been impressive as well. So if anything, I mean, I'd probably have to take Georgia and lay the points.
Okay. And how about Bama? Same number at home to Oklahoma.
This line is begging people to take Alabama.
That's
here.
right.
Alabama's number 4 in the country. I was there in Tuscaloosa last weekend. They've gotten every break. And LSU is not good at this point. And LSU had their chances. It's a one-possession game in the middle of the fourth quarter. For this thing to be under a touchdown, it looks like it's inviting, Alabama action. Being Vanderbilt, I mean, turns the ball over 2 times in the red zone, or they're right to beat Alabama. I mean, the South Carolina game, they had no business winning that game. So they're winning a charm life, leading a charm life right now. So I kind of like Oklahoma in the point that Venables is very, very good against one-dimensional teams. Alabama, the 136 Division I teams, is like 110, yards per attempt rush. So Ty Simpson even gives me more appreciation for what he's done. Now, he's got some weapons now, but Ty Simpson's been really, really good this year. But that line stinks to all heaven. Tells me Oklahoma's the side plus the points.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Jimmy Ott, ESPN Baton Rouge. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. All right. So you mentioned Lane up for these gigs, one of them being Florida. Well, they played this week. Ole Miss, big favorite, now down to 11.5 actually against Florida here. Does he want to be on showcase here for the Gators and put together like the best game of the entire year? Have you bet this game yet, Jimmy?
No, I have not. But how about the line movement?
I know.
You go get one thing that Sunbelt Billy did. Man, he kept that locker room together, and they played hard when it was a rough season. And they fired him before the bye week, before they played Georgia. Big rivalry game, and Florida brought it again. Up 3 inside the 24th and 1 in the fourth quarter. I mean, they're about to make it a 2-possession game. We know how that thing ended. So it's just, I just wonder, though, you go to Kentucky and get housed like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sure that they're going to get housed at Ole Miss. So they bet the line up. But, man, this massive movement down low now, is Florida have a last stand in them? And how much are the distractions that Lane Kiffin's the hottest coach for the other jobs, how much of a distraction is that placed on him? So it's a tough spot. But down at 11.5, man, I'm taking Ole Miss. Keep in mind, the one thing we do know, that cost him a trip to the playoff last year. So, and that loss to Gainesville. So Lane will have his team ready. I'm going to lay the points with Ole Miss at home.
Great call about last year. If you had to bet on the number of teams to make the playoff from the SEC, that number of teams would be what?
17. I don't know. It's 5, maybe 4 or 5.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It depends on. There's so many critical games just left. Texas could be there. Vanderbilt could be there. And guys, let me tell you, I thought this new transfer portal or NIL era, it would just extend, widen the haves and have-nots. It's done exactly the opposite. I've never seen a ceiling so low for the SEC. There's no super team. A&M's got a chance. They have a chance. Marcel Reed can be a little bit inconsistent, but when he's on, they're as good as anybody. But the other teams are not. Alabama's not that good. Georgia's not that good. Yeah. Ole Miss, that team was way better last year. Better last year. And LSU is not great. But the bottom, Kentucky and Mississippi State are playing teams in the upper echelon of the SEC. So it is like the Big 12 on steroids all of a sudden with the SEC this year. But it's 4, maybe 5. You know that, Mitch. There's a lot of games to be played. So does Duke win the ACC championship and so forth?
You're basically speaking our language here. We've said this many times this week and going back last couple of weeks, super conferences stink. I wish they would get rid of them. I can't stand them, Jimmy.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Look, SMU got to the ACC championship game, dodging Clemson, Clemson and Miami. They didn't have to play Notre Dame, but there's 6 ACC games, and they got beaten the ACC championship game in the tournament as well. So this is what you have when you have these ridiculously large conferences where you can get through a schedule and get to the conference championship game and maybe win it. So just part of where we are. But I'm telling you, the ceiling is really low for these SEC teams. I don't see these super dominant Georgia, Alabama, LSU type of teams this year.
No, you're spot on. You can follow Jimmy on X. He's at Jimmy Ott 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Jimmy, that was awesome. Thanks for the time. Best of luck this weekend.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, guys.
I will remind you that it did not go well for this offense the first time they played. Now we get the rematch on Sunday.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
It's good to have you on board here. Thanks for watching today on YouTube TV, listening on Sirius XM Channel 158, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, or any of our affiliates across the country. We are live in downtown Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Coming up in this hour, 30 minutes from right now, college football with Brett McMurphy. End of the show, our best bets. And right now, just a phenomenal game coming up on Sunday night as the Eagles are hosting the Lions. Sunday Night Football, Eagles favored by 2.5. Some books have 3, total around 46.5. And we head it now to the progressive guest line as Jeremy Reisman joins the program. prideofdetroit.com, on X, at Detroit on Lion. Jeremy, thanks for the time today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, fellas.
You bet. Okay, so I think this is a great clash of styles here because the Lions offense, as we saw with Dan Campbell in charge last week, humming on all cylinders against a bad defense. But now they get a unit that I think is going to be talked about as one of the best in the league coming up in about a month. How do you think it plays out coming up on Sunday night?
Yeah, it's a really good question because, yeah, like you said, we got a sample size one with Dan Campbell being the play caller and with it being a Washington defense that's not very good and very beat up and saw one of their better players ejected in the first half. Kind of hard to judge too much there. But I'm with you. I think this Eagles defense is extremely talented. They're the healthiest they've been all season. And it'll be interesting because the one thing that the Eagles have struggled with this year a little bit is stopping the run, which is kind of shocking considering some of the personnel they have. But they've been better in recent weeks, and we all know that that's what the Lions are going to try to do. They're going to try to establish the run. So to me, that's the key matchup. If the Lions are going to be able to, move the offensive line downfield a little bit and getting Jahmyr Gibbs going, it could be another really good performance from Dan Campbell as a play caller, but it's certainly not going to be easy. So, if you're asking me to predict, I honestly think it's a 50-50. It could go either way. But I do kind of believe that maybe the Lions are catching the Eagles at the wrong time. And so, I'm kind of expecting a low scoring outing. Hopefully not what we saw on Monday night between the Eagles and the Packers here. Not that low scoring, but I do expect it to kind of be in one of those slogs that you expect in prime time sometimes.
So what happens if they have then back-to-back average performances? Does he go back to Morton, who's saying all the right things, or what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, or is it we don't know?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know. Dan has said publicly that he's willing to go back to Morton, and he actually compared John Morton to Ben Johnson back in 2021 when Dan Campbell took the play calling away from a different offensive coordinator. He said Ben Johnson was right there by my side and kind of learning and figuring out what it looks like to call the offense the way I want it, and so that's maybe what John Morton is doing here for the next couple weeks, maybe the rest of the year, maybe even into 2026. We don't really know. But generally speaking, when you make a play caller change like that in the middle of the season, you tend to not go back. And so I'd be very surprised unless things went drastically wrong over the next couple of weeks if Dan Campbell ever gave those back up.
Could this carry them and elevate them to the Super Bowl? I think we judge him on the biting kneecaps press conference when he was in. Could he be the mad scientist? What are the possibilities and chances of that?
I mean, I wouldn't put it by him. Like I said, he took over play calling duties back in his first year here. And, that was a pretty dreadful offensive roster. And he turned it around a little bit. They went 3-3 down the stretch of that first year after they went 1-10-1 to start, or 0-10-1 to start the season. And the offense, scored about 4 or 5 points more per game with him as a play caller instead of Anthony Lynn. And so I do think Dan Campbell's, offensive know-how is a little bit underrated. I think people look at him and judge him from the kneecap stuff and judge him for the looks and the silly stuff he does during some press conference, but he knows offense. He's a former tight end. When you're a tight end in the NFL, you have to know every aspect of offense. And I just think a lot of what the Lions have built here in the past 5 years offensively, he's had his fingerprints on it from the beginning. So it doesn't surprise me that he's had some success. It doesn't surprise me that he feels like He knows the personnel the best. He knows how to get this offense into the flow of the game. And, really, he's yet to prove himself wrong with that. And so we'll see again this week against a really good Eagles defense, but I would not put it by him for him to be kind of that new, face of offense, really brilliant offensive mind play callers in this league.
Now, they were the 15-win 1 seed last year in the NFC. Not going to get there this year because they already have 3 losses. But I think this conference is absolutely loaded, better than last year. I mean, we're talking about teams that are phenomenal across the board here. Having said that, I also think that the Lions are better than last year just because they had so many injuries at the end of the season. Is that fair?
I think it is, particularly defensively, right? They really ran out of juice on that side of the ball with as many injuries as they had, up to 12, 13 guys on IR at the end of the year. They have a few guys on IR now, but the good news is most of them are coming back in the near future too. Maybe not for this Eagles game, but they got the Packers on Thanksgiving. That'll be a big one. They got the Rams in LA, and I think they should have some of those defensive pieces back. And then offensively, they've taken a step back. They went through some offensive line changes too, outside of all the play calling drama, so to speak. But defensively, this should be a top 10 defense this year, especially when they're fully healthy. And honestly, they're kind of playing like it without it anyway. So I think they're more well-rounded as long as they can stay healthy down, the last 2 months of the season here. I think they can enter the playoffs. Yes, very much considered a better team than they were last year.
Let's follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Jeremy Reisman. He follows the Lions for prideofdetroit.com. He's on X at Detroit Online. Now, the coaching staff came out in recent weeks and said, we got to get Jameson Williams the ball more. Last week, it popped against Washington, 119 yards. Is that going to be a thing again, you think, on Sunday night and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be tough this week against an Eagles defense that doesn't allow a lot of plays over the top and I think has a really good cornerback room. But, if they have him lined up against Adoree Jackson, which is kind of the weak spot in that Eagles secondary, yeah, certainly. And listen, they just gave him a contract extension right before the year started. So they very much plan on him being part of the plan. One of the things you saw last week in particular is, everyone knows Jameson Williams is a deep threat. This guy you throw 9 routes to. But they utilize him on comeback routes. They use him on crossers, which is something we saw in training camp a lot. And we were wondering where they had gone for the first 2 months of the season. And then Dan Campbell takes over play calling, and suddenly we see a little bit more of that. So, yeah, I would expect to see that more down the stretch here. It'll be tough against that Eagles defense on Sunday night. But, I would say Jameson Williams is definitely going to have a stronger second half of the season than maybe he did in the first.
Yeah, I don't see any more 3s out there on the odd screen right now. So I'm seeing 2.5 pretty much painted across the board here with the Philadelphia Eagles as a favorite. Would you have interest in taking that number, or would you just look at the under 46.5?
That's kind of the one where I'm a little bit more interested in. I do think this is a field goal game in either direction, and that means it's going to come down to a couple plays. And I don't like to gamble when it's just anything can happen, right? It could be an official call, it could be a fumble here, a fumble there. But I do feel relatively confident that both of these defenses are going to play some good football in this game. The Eagles have struggled to get the run game going, and the Lions are a pretty darn good run defending team. If there's a unit that might be able to pop in this game, it might be the Eagles passing offense, because the Lions are dealing with some injuries in the secondary, but their passing offense has a lot of drama to it too, obviously, with the A.J. Brown stuff. And Jalen Hurts isn't a guy that throws it 35, 40 times a game either. So it'll be interesting to see if the strategy shifts a little bit, given some of the injuries, given some of the drama in Philly. But ultimately, I think this might be another low-scoring one.
Yeah. Well, Laporta's out. Campbell had rave reviews for Brock Wright. Can Brock Wright do anything in this game from a prop standpoint? I'd like more than 3-1 for a touchdown, but what do you think of his game?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting because they'll have to use him in a way that they don't really very often. He's very much kind of an inline tight end that's typically blocking, and then I think the value in Brock Wright is that sometimes he'll slip out and no one will cover him because no one expects him to be covered, and then he'll catch one and run for 20, 30 yards. He's capable. Like, he has good hands. I would say his route running is pretty average, if that. But again, like, you're talking about an Eagles defense that has a really good linebacking core. If you're a fan of the DVOA stat, they're actually 32nd in DVO defense against tight ends. So I wouldn't think this is a great matchup for Brock Wright to necessarily break out. Like, he might catch. They're certainly going to design some plays for him to be maybe the first or second option, but I wouldn't expect more than 1 or 2 catches in this game from him.
Very good. You can follow Jeremy on X at Detroit Online, and also PrideOfDetroit.com is the website. Jeremy, thanks for the time today. Enjoy the game on Sunday night.
Appreciate it. Thanks, fellas.
There you go.
Very
Jeremy
good.
Reisman, and he was on the Progressive Guest Line. I think if you're going to make a case for a wide receiver here against this banged-up Detroit secondary, it's going to be Devontae Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because how many times has A.J. Brown been chirping this year? The entire time, every game? And it's still not working?
Yeah.
And Devontae Smith is the one guy who has actually had good games playing that position.
3-1 on Brock Wright. Come on.
I know, that's
I'll
unbettable.
I tell you what I'm doing, though. It's Sunday Night Football. Goff anytime 18. Goff first touchdown 75. Little razzle-dazzle from the mad scientist to start.
Right.
Come on. Got to come back with that. Should have worked against Kansas City.
They're not going to come back with that.
It's the Ozzie Nader line, too.
They showed it once. They're not going to do it again, are they?
What are you kidding? Remember the Dallas game? No, the one thing I will say, though, is that was a good answer about tight end, and we judge him on the kneecaps comment, but a good football mind that he is. I thought there were times, especially in the playoff game, Ben Johnson was way too pass happy.
Oh, he drove me insane, Paul.
I know. So I would have, if he wants to go ground and pound too, and don't be afraid to mix in the run.
I had the lines last year from my lungs across the board.
Wow, it was terrible, the Washington performance. They were getting whatever they wanted on the ground. And then,
I also knew, though, the writing was on the wall. You can't have players wearing name tags at practice because they're down like 30 guys on the year. They're signing guys from other practice squads like on a Wednesday. Yeah. Hey, who's this guy? Well, you're going to have to go out there and play 45 snaps on Sunday.
It was like our buddy Ozzie said, though, if you're going to I have to bet every quarterback in the league at that price other than Rodgers after he cashed the Davis Mills.
I'm in. Right?
I'm not even talking about razzle-dazzle,
Yeah.
just a little push in your face.
Right.
I'll sneak it in from the 1.
God, I can't wait for the NFC playoffs.
I forgot they go to Los Angeles coming up on us. This is nuts.
How about this? NFL teams that have lost in this fashion have bounced back in a big way over the past decade. 22-6 ATS. Details next.